Good evening, students. So today we'll talk about perquisites, which are there under section 17, subsection 2 of Income Tax Act. Perquisites may be defined as any casual emolument or benefit attached to an office or position in addition to salary or wages. These are basically the facilities which are provided by the employer to his employee depending upon the designation of the employee. Okay, and these perquisites could be either in monetary as well as in non-monetary terms. So in case of monetary perquisites, in case the employer will do the expenditure on behalf of his employee or will reimburse the expenses incurred by the employee, such expenses are always fully taxable irrespective of the nature of the job. That it will be fully taxable for the government employee as well as for non-government employee. So always keep in mind whenever any transaction in which the employer is paying an amount on behalf of the employee or he is reimbursing the expenses which are incurred by the employee, such transactions are usually called as monetary transactions and these are always fully taxable. However, in case of non-monetary perquisites, the employer provides the facility in kind, that is not in cash, not in monetary terms. So in this case, we have to calculate the money value of such facility according to IT rule number 3. So in case of non-monetary perquisites, we always have to follow rule number 3 of your income tax, in which we have to calculate the money value of these facilities which are given by the employer in kind. So for example, an employee is having domestic servant working at his residence. Salary of such servant is not paid by the employee, rather it is paid by the company where he is employed. So such payment on behalf of employee is monetary perquisite, which is always fully taxable. Assume in the above example, the salary is first paid by the employer and thereafter it is reimbursed by the employer. So first paid by employee, then reimbursed by employer, then such transaction is also known as monetary perquisites, which is always fully taxable. In example 3, an employee is working with ABC Limited and the company has provided him a servant for domestic help. In this case, this facility is given in kind. It means the company is not paying on behalf of the employee and not even reimbursing the amount. So in this case, whatever the facility is given in kind, that is called as non-monetary perquisites, and we have to calculate the money value of such facility as per IT rule number 3. And that will be whatever the money value you'll get, then that will be taxable as per various conditions. So there every time there will be a different type of conditions and the rules which we have to follow. So as per the definition given in income tax, perquisites includes value of rent-free or concessional rent accommodation provided by the employer. So any accommodation is given by the employer to his employee without any rent or at concessional rent, means rent which is lesser than the market rent which is prevalent in the nearby location. So in this case, that will be called as a perquisite. Okay. Any sum paid by the employer in respect of an obligation which was actually payable by the assessee. So in case of any obligation which is of the employee that he has to make payment of, but the employer on his behalf is making any kind of payment, then that will be called as a perquisite. Then value of any benefit amenity granted free or at concessional rate to specified employees. That we'll discuss who all are the specified employees. Then value of any specified security or sweat equity shares allotted or transferred directly or indirectly by the employer or former employer free of cost or at concessional rate to the assessee. So this is talking about ESOP, that is equity shares option schemes. But unfortunately, the valuation of such schemes are not in BCom Honours syllabus. But we'll just discuss the normal meaning of these ESOPs. Then amount of any contribution to an approved superannuation fund by the employer in respect of the assessee to the extent it exceeds 1 lakh rupees. So anything over and above of 1 lakh, that will be called as a perquisite value. Then the value of any other fringe benefits or amenities as may be prescribed. So this we'll discuss in detail. So let's just move. First, we'll discuss about monetary perquisites or obligations of employee met by the employer. So monetary perquisites we already know are fully taxable. So in case there is any expenditure which is the obligation of employee but it is paid by the employer or reimbursed by the employer, then it is regarded as obligation of employee met by the employer. So in such case, the amount paid or reimbursed by the employer is fully taxable and it will be added in gross salary irrespective whether the employee is government or non-government. Okay. So monetary perquisites are always fully taxable. So these are the examples. First one is professional tax paid or reimbursed by employer, and that we have already discussed that in case the employer is making the payment of professional tax on behalf of the employee, then it will be first added in the gross salary and then later on it is allowed as deduction under section 16. Remember? So this is one of the case of monetary perquisites. Then car expenses of employee paid or reimbursed by employer. So this is also the monetary perquisite. Then salary of servant of employees paid or reimbursed by employer, that we have already discussed in the examples earlier. Then bills of gas, electricity, water paid or reimbursed by the employer. So any payment which is being made or reimbursed by the employer, which is in fact actually the obligation of the employee, then all such transactions are monetary perquisites. Insurance premium paid by employer. So in case employer pays life insurance premium of employees to get an assurance of the life of employee, then it will be taxable for the employee. But later on the employee can claim deduction under section 80C from the gross total income. 80C की जब हमने deductions करी थी उसमें आपका insurance भी था, remember, insurance premium, do you remember? जिसमें हमने कहा था limit is 1,50,000, right? So in case अगर employer life insurance premium दे रहा है employee का, then it will be first added in the taxable salary of the employee and then later on it will be allowed as deduction from the gross total income. क्योंकि life insurance premium में जब कुछ भी अनहैपनिंग हो जाती है, कुछ भी मिसहैपनिंग हो जाती है, सॉरी, विद द एम्प्लॉय, ऑन दैट केस जो भी अश्योरेंस या जो भी अमाउंट आता है इंश्योरेंस का, दैट इज गिवन टू द फैमिली ऑफ द एम्प्लॉय. सो इन एनी वेज दिस इज द इनकम ऑफ द एम्प्लॉय व्हिच शुड बी एडेड इन द सैलरीज, बट डिडक्शन मिल जाएगी. बट इन केस इफ एम्प्लॉयर पेज मेडिकल इंश्योरेंस प्रीमियम या फिर वेल्थ इंश्योरेंस प्रीमियम और ग्रुप इंश्योरेंस प्रीमियम, देन इट इज ऑलवेज फुल्ली एग्जेम्प्ट फ्रॉम द एम्प्लॉय, because this is not going to benefit the employee but this is going to benefit the employer later on. So ये जो इंश्योरेंस होते हैं इसमें अगर कुछ भी मिसहैपनिंग या कोई भी प्रॉब्लम होती है एम्प्लॉय को, वो एम्प्लॉयर को मिलता है उसका पैसा. जैसे आपका मेडिकल इंश्योरेंस प्रीमियम है, मेडिकल इंश्योरेंस प्रीमियम में क्या होगा, अगर एम्प्लॉय को किसी भी कोई हेल्थ प्रॉब्लम होगी या उसकी फैमिली को कोई हेल्थ प्रॉब्लम होगी तो वो डायरेक्टली जो टाई अप इंश्योरर है विद द एम्प्लॉयर उससे वो डायरेक्टली ट्रीटमेंट करा के क्लेम ले लेगा. ठीक है, तो इससे एम्प्लॉयर का फायदा है, सो दैट वो चाहता है कि जल्दी से जल्दी एम्प्लॉय बेटर हो एंड ही विल गेट बैक टू द ऑफिस टू हिज वर्क. तो इसीलिए दिस इज मोर फ्रॉम द बेनिफिट पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू ऑफ एम्प्लॉयर एंड नॉट फ्रॉम द एम्प्लॉय. क्योंकि अगर एम्प्लॉय खुद से पैसा खर्च करके अगर अपना ट्रीटमेंट कराएगा तो वो डेफिनेटली ज्यादा लंबा चलेगा एज कंपेयर टू व्हेन ही नोज कि whatever amount is being spent on my health or my family, it will be directly reimbursed from the medical insurance provider which has a tie up with the employer. So इसलिए जो भी schemes which are going to benefit the employer are fully exempt from the employer. So खाली life insurance premium ही है जो gross salary में included होता है, उसके अलावा usually जो employer insurance लेता है वो अपने benefit के लिए लेता है, not for the employee's benefit. ठीक है, the next one is employee stock option schemes, and I have already told you that the valuation is not in the BCom honors syllabus, but you can just take a note of that this scheme is the scheme in which the employer allots shares to its employees at a price which is less than the market value of such shares, and the difference between the market value and the issued price is basically your perquisite value which you tax under the income from salary. ठीक है, but valuation is not in your syllabus, so we will not spend much of a time in this particular section. Next is fringe benefits. Okay, so for fringe benefits I'll make a separate video. In case of any doubts, please do let me know.